Well, good morning. This is State Representative Jim Durkin. I'm the House Minority Leader from the 82nd District, which is the west suburbs of Cook County. I reside in Western Springs, and my district is LaGrange, Western Springs, Indian Head Park, Burr Ridge, Lamont, Willowbrook, Darien, and Homer Glen. It's a very diverse area, but it's a good district, and I'm honored to be here today. There is a, we're in some very uncharted territories in this country, and I know in the past and also in the state. We have a lot of, we've got to refit, retool, pivot, and find new ways to be able to take on the challenges that we have going on in the state and also in this country and the world. So we traditionally have had a really nice, a really good forum, and we've had events about job placements and job fairs, and we're going to have to do it by Zoom today. So I appreciate those who are on this call, and I hope they find some value to this. We want to do the best we can to put you in a good place to forward your information to an employer to try to find a good fit. So one of the things that I just want to briefly say before I introduce the next our presenter is that I wanted to state that your resume is often your first point of communication with a potential employer. It is important that your resume accurately conveys all of your skills and your work history. The webinar will walk you through all of the components needed for a great resume and review the most common mistakes that job seekers make when drafting their resumes. Let me just say this, is that when you do prepare a resume and you do submit it to a potential employer, they will perform due diligence, and they will look, and they will check to see if you worked at so-and-so, or you went to school at wherever you went to school. If you have it listed, they will check to verify that the information on the resume is accurate. You want to make sure that that you are not stretching anything, but you're just being very direct and also very accurate with that information. I think it's extremely important. So good luck today. And I want to present now Phil Holmes, the career coach from the West Suburban Cook County American Job Center. Thank you, Phil, for joining us.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Thanks, everybody, for coming here. Again, my name is Phil Holmes, and I am one of the career coaches at the West Suburban Cook County American Job Center in Maywood. Aside from being a career coach, I'm also what's called a CPRW, which is a Certified Professional Resume Writer. So the way this is going to work is I set this workshop up a bit like a top 10 list in a way. I suppose I was too much a fan of David Letterman growing up, but that's the way my brain worked. So there's going to be questions. I'm sure you'll have them. Most likely we'll get to them near the end. You can certainly use the chat box at the bottom, use the Q&A. So let's get moving, and what better place to start than at the beginning. So let me just make sure I'm going from the beginning, and we can get this cruising. All right, here we go. Top 10 list. What better place to begin than the beginning? Contact information. So you want to make this resume as easy as possible for HR, the recruiter, the hiring manager to see everything about it. You want to make this easy. So contact information, just put it at the center of the page. I've had resumes with the name on the left, the address on the right, and sometimes even the phone, the email at the bottom. So center of the page. Please don't use any silly emails like Purple Unicorn Fan. I would be remiss if I said I myself was not a fan of purple unicorns. However, what you want to do is just have your name, first name, last name, or last name, first name at Gmail. Now, let's say you have something like Purple Unicorn Fan and you've used that your whole life for everything. Keep using it. That's fine. Use it for the rest of the things in your life, but please just get a professional Gmail for your job search. One phone number is all that's needed. Use the one phone number that you're most likely to answer, the one you're most likely to get voicemails from. The last bullet point on here is kind of just a Well, I guess it's a pet peeve of mine, but we don't need the P and the E in front of phone numbers and emails. You know, we've turned the corner to 2021. Everybody's aware of what a phone number looks like and what an email looks like. Let me do a quick tangent here on the phone number if I could. The reason you're submitting an application, the reason you're submitting this resume is so you can get a call for an interview, whether that's a phone screen, a Zoom, and in person. So please, with the phone, a couple of items. One, make sure you're able to receive messages. Okay, so that may mean you have to clear out your voicemails. I can't tell you how many customers I've tried to contact, past and present, and I'm sure it'll be future. I go through the whole message just to get to the whole, sorry, this voicemail box is full. That's not going to help your cause. Okay, so clear out the voicemails. Second thing, the outgoing message on your phone. Just make sure it's you. You know, hi, this is Phil Holmes. You've reached me at, state your number, leave a message. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So for now, if you have the phone message with the kids answering or the music in the background, just for now, while you're in the job search, get rid of it. Once you secure the job, day one, go back to having all the fun stuff on there. All right, and the bottom of the screen is a little bit of how that top page could look, right? So name at the top, address, city, state, zip, phone, and email. Another quick side note, you do not need your entire address. And that's wholly personal. There is no right or wrong to that. Some people tell me they don't want it there for identity theft reasons. Some people tell me they don't want it, the full address on there because they simply don't want everybody knowing exactly where they live. It's up to you. It's whatever you want to do, but at minimum, you need the city, the state, and the zip. So have your name, next line, city, state, zip, next line, phone, and email. Okay, let's keep moving. So objective statement versus professional summary. If you have an objective statement on your resume right now, raise your hand. Well, I used to, and I cannot see your hand. So an objective statement pretty well says, this is what I want from the employer. This is what I want from you, right? The professional summary, that's where we've turned the corner. On your resume, you need to get rid of an objective statement and you need to have a professional summary. The professional summary says, this is what I'm bringing to the table. This is what I can offer you, the employer. So if we look at this example, this is a typical objective statement that I've seen from the resumes I've reviewed. I'm looking to use my education and my skills to land a job and advance within it. And that's great. But the reality is that's what everybody's looking for. That's everybody's objective. So that does not make you stand out. The point of the resume is for you to stand out. What's your highlight, right? The name of this workshop is selling your strengths and enhancing your brand. You have to sell yourself, sell your strengths, sell your highlights, right? So saying you're looking for a job doesn't sell anything. It doesn't highlight anything. However, a professional summary does that. And this really isn't a suggestion. The employer, whether it be recruiter, hiring manager, HR, they're expecting to see the professional summary. So a professional summary could look something like this. And you don't have to write this down if you're taking notes, and I actually hope that you are. But I'll give you the ingredients for this. That's what you want to notate. So the summary could be something like bilingual automotive and sales specialist. 10 years experience doing these things, diagnosing, maintaining, troubleshooting. Education includes UTI, Ford, General Motors, online technical training. That tells me in a snapshot, if I'm HR, that's what this person's bringing to the table. Yeah, I get it, they want a job. That's why they applied in the first place. So to me, an objective statement's a bit redundant, right? We all know that you want the job, but tell me what you can bring to the job. So the professional summary, what are the ingredients? What do you need? You're gonna start off, the number one is state the professional that you are. Customer service expert, medical assistant professional. Whatever your profession is, start with that. Second ingredient, how many years of experience do you have? So this person is saying specialist with over 10 years experience. Great. So your profession, followed by how many years. Third ingredient, list about 3 skills you have that are relevant to the position for which you're applying. Where can you find those skills? Boy, oh boy, look right at that job ad. They're right there. What will you need to do? Responsibilities include, duties are, right? However that job ad is listed, plug them in there. As long as you can do them, right? As was stated at the beginning at my introduction, these companies will check to make sure that you're accurate. So don't lie. Anything on their resume is fair game for that interviewer to discuss. So if you say you have experience with PowerPoint and you really don't, and you get to that interview, whatever format that may be, and they go, hey, Phil, I see you wrote down you're pretty good with PowerPoint. What can you tell me about that? And I've really never used it. That's not going to be good news for me moving forward with this interview, right? So put down what it is you can do. All right, so first ingredient, the professional you are. Second, how many years experience. Third, about 3 skills you have that are relevant to the position. Last ingredient, it could be a couple different things, right? You get to spice it up in your own way. You could put in the education. If you feel your education is relevant to the position for which you're applying, such as what's on the screen, that would make sense, right? This person on here has a bit of education in the automotive field, include that. And or how about some highlights, right? Like, or accomplishments. Recent accomplishments include earning Salesperson of the Year 2016 to 2019 for my team. So something like that. That's not refined. That's something along those lines, some sort of an achievement, something again to make you stand out, to make them go, oh boy, that's what this person's bringing to the table. I got to make sure I call that person, put them in the call pile. All right, so you're going to start off with your contact information centered at the top. Very next section, you're going to have your professional summary, what you can bring to the table with these ingredients. All right, so throughout the resume, you need to pepper it with keywords, okay? And the reason for that is what's called the ATS, or Applicant Tracking Systems. Essentially, it's software that most all companies use these days that will compare your resume to that specific job for which you're applying. What you should do is use the words exactly as they're written in that specific job ad. So my example here under the letter A, if they spell nonprofit put together, you're going to spell nonprofit put together. If they're going to use the number or numeral 3 for years of experience needed, you're using the numeral 3 as well. So where can you find these keywords, and what are the keywords? The keywords on the job ad are those responsibilities you'll actually be doing. So where do you find those in the job ad? Typically, they'll be under something like what you'll do, responsibilities, ideal candidate should have, something like that. Look on the job ad for those sections. So for example, if you're going for a customer service job, you may see things on that job ad such as tracking back orders, close tickets, Microsoft Word, data entry, processing phone orders. Those are all the duties or responsibilities you'll be expected to perform for that role. Those are key words. Somewhere, somehow in your resume, you have to put those in. And that's up to you. Do you want to throw 1 or 2 in your professional summary? Do you want to make sure some of those are in your bullet points for your employment history? That's up to you. So what I want to say is this. Where I get some pushback is when I say to my customers that my suggestion is that you craft each resume for each job. By that I mean you're scrolling through, let's say, Indeed or whatever site you're on for your jobs, and you find job A. You read through it, you qualify for it, sounds pretty good. Now, you plug in the keywords from job A into your resume. Now you submit your resume to job A, your application, you're good, right? You keep scrolling. You find another job. This is at company XYZ. You read through that job ad. I like it. That's good. I can do that one. It's in a good location as well. Perfect. Take the keywords now from company XYZ job ad and manipulate your resume. Put the keywords from there into your resume. That's the suggestion. The pushback I get is, well, Phil, that takes a lot of extra time and I don't have that kind of time. And I say, I get it. I understand. It does take more time. But my suggestion is if you can find the time, and I do suggest you find the time, that you make it personal to each job. Everybody knows the score these days. We're still in the health pandemic. We still know the unemployment numbers. So when you start doing the math about the unemployed numbers and say you times that by 5 applications per week, unemployed in Cook County times just 5 applications per week, you're talking about a large number of people that are applying to jobs. So the more you can stand out, right? The more you can sell your strengths, the more you can enhance your brand. The hope is you're putting yourself in a better position to get recognized and to get that phone call. I put in number 3 here on the screen, where to find keywords, job ad. That's an absolute for sure, for a fact. That's where you'll find them. I put in bls.gov for 2 reasons. One, if you just want to kind of see what's happening with the trend as far as, does this job appear to be trending upwards? Are jobs available? Maybe you're not entirely sure about skills needed or education needed or what the work environment could be. You can head to bls.gov, type in that job title you're looking for, click on that hyperlink, and you'll see about 8 or 9 tabs for there. You can read all about it. So should you take words from bls.gov and put them in your resume? You can, but I don't know that speaks specifically to the job ad that you're applying for. The suggestion and why I put it here is you could probably put some of those words, well, aside from learning a little bit more about the field or the job, you could put some of those words perhaps into your cover letter, or you can use some of that in an interview. If you're answering a question such as, so what is it about this job, or what is it about this industry, or what is it about this field that interests you? You got it. You went to bls.gov. Well, according to bls.gov, this is trending upwards at 5%. All right, skills section. So you're going to start off with your contact information centered. Below that, your professional summary with those about 4 ingredients that I gave you. You're going to pepper your resume with the keywords, those action items that you would do throughout the resume. The next section, contact info, professional summary, I suggest a skills section. So what you want to do here is, to the best of your ability, include the hard skills, those qualifications required to do the job. And that actually kind of goes back to what we just talked about with the keywords, with those responsibilities you would actually do. So again, when I say pepper your resume with some of those keywords, if it makes sense for you to put some of those keywords in your skills section, go ahead and do that. If it makes more sense for you to put them within your bullet points for your work history, do that. So when I say hard skills, again, it's those that are specific knowledge, specific abilities learned through training or learned through the jobs that you did. They're teachable. It's what's necessary to do the job successfully. So the question then is, well, if those are hard skills, and you can see at the bottom of the screen here, some of those suggested hard skills for this person we've been kind of following or tracking, that's in automotives, diagnosis and repair, suspension, maintenance. Those are things this person would be doing. That's a hard skill for that area. Well, so if there's hard skills, that begs the question, are there soft skills? Well, yes, there are. You are correct. Soft skills travel from job to job, from industry to industry. So for example, organized. You have to be organized whether you're in customer service, a medical assistant, truck driver, or a high school English teacher. Organized travels everywhere. Teamwork, punctual, communication. Those are soft skills. Those travel everywhere. So the question I get is, well, Phil, do I have to have my skills section be all hard skills, or can I also have soft skills? So my answer is, to the extent that you can, have the skills section be hard skills, do that. And you only need to have about as many as are on the screen here, right? About 9, give or take. If you don't have the 9 hard skills, it's all good. Go to some of those soft skills that you have. It's totally fine to do. I'm just saying, to the extent you can, try to have the hard skills in there. And again, those are things you will be doing. Those are your responsibilities. Okay, so contact information to professional summary, professional skills section, or skills qualifications, however you want to label your section. You're now into the work history or employment history section. Here's where a lot of the meat and a lot of the flavor of the resume comes into play. This is extraordinarily important. It's all extraordinarily important, but this is where you're going to start selling yourself. This is where you really can enhance your brand, because this is where you get to list your highlights, your accomplishments. So, a couple things. For every job, and this, apologies, these bullets are a little bit skewed, not exactly in order how I want to discuss them. So let's jump to bullet 3. All jobs listed need these 4 things: the company name, your title, the city and state where you went to work, and the dates you were employed. Every single job you list needs to have those 4 things, just to begin. I have seen my fair share of resumes where I'll get the company name and then an address with the state. And to me, that doesn't make any sense. So if it doesn't make sense to me, HR, the recruiter, it's not going to make sense to them. So those 4 items are needed for all jobs you list. Okay. What you want to do, I can go to the second bullet point. Again, apologies for being a bit out of order. Make sure your verbs are correct. So your past jobs, the jobs you're no longer at, are listed in past tense. If you're currently in a job or presently in a job, those are present tense verbs. And that may seem like a little silly thing that doesn't mean that much, but it actually means a lot. Because if I'm HR, if I'm recruiter, and I get your resume, and you state on your resume, you're presently working, but your verbs that you have listed are past tense, I'm not going to really understand. I'm going to think to myself, well, wait, did this person actually end this job and they just forgot to list the end date? Or are they presently working and they just didn't spend the time or the effort to make sure that they did this correctly? Are they not detail oriented? Another soft skill you might want to include. So it's very important that your verbs are correct. All right, so for each job you list, you want to have somewhere between 3 to 5 bullet points, 3 to 5 responsibilities. Please remember, the resume is not your autobiography. These are your highlights. So for each job listed, about 3 to 5 bullet points that highlight your responsibilities. And each of those bullet points is going to begin with an action verb. Something like create, manage, lead, reinforce, implement, document, collaborate. If you need any help with action verbs, go to my best friend Google, type in action verbs, and you'll probably get about 20 trillion options. But each bullet is starting with an action verb with the correct tense. So the last bullet point on here says to use numbers, percentages, and frequency whenever possible. That is where you can add your highlights, your achievements. This is going to make you stand out. So a number or a percentage. How many reports did you submit? How many people did you train? How many teams were you in charge of? How many projects did you manage? Give a number. Numbers can also be dollar amounts. Manage 3 projects, each in excess of $1.3 million, whatever the number is. Or a number could be met my sales goal of $250 every day, whatever it is. Or if you want to list it as a percentage, you can list it as a percentage. 94% of my customers went on to be successful in their field of choice, whatever. Frequency, that would help me as a recruiter or HR understand how much you did this. Because that's going to tell me for the job you're applying for, how often do we do this, right? And similarly to the interview, the more the employer can see you in your past roles, the more they can see you in this role you're applying for. So you got to give this some spice. You got to give it some flavor. Let me backtrack real quick. The employment section. I said this is not your autobiography. So the way I like to look at the resume, specifically the employment section, is I like to equate it to music. If someone comes to me and says, "Hey, Phil," and I go, "Hey, what?" They say, "You know, I think I want to get you into listening to the Beatles." Well, that sounds terrific. Let's do it. And they give me their entire playlist, every single song the Beatles ever recorded. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, I do not have time to listen to every single song the Beatles ever recorded. But you know what I do have time for? Their greatest hits. Hit me up with the Beatles' greatest hits. And my suggestion is for you to take that frame of reference and apply it to your resume. Hit them with your greatest hits. What's the best of the best? Yeah, you may have done 12 responsibilities at each job that you're listing, but are all 12 the best of the best? Try to pare it down to your best 3 to 5 bullets for each job. A second side note I want to take with this section is the number 10. Number 10, that's the magic number for the resume. So you're only going to list the last 10 years of your employment history. Again, this isn't an autobiography. They don't need to know that you had a job in 1986, though that's terrific that you did. We need what's relevant. And the industry standard states 10 years is relevant. So list the last 10 years. And I know I forgot to mention the number 10 comes into place in 2 other areas. And I forgot to mention it for the professional summary. Let's say you have 18 years experience as a customer service specialist. You're not going to state you have 18 years experience. You're going to use the number 10 once again when you write that professional summary. You're not going to go above 10. You're going to say 10 years, or you're going to say over 10 years, or you're going to say 10 years plus. 10 is the magic number throughout. It's also in the education section, which we'll get to. So they want to see relevant. That's why 10 is important. 10 is also important because while it's illegal, ageism does exist. So while you are presenting yourself for the first time to these people who most likely don't know you and don't know your job duties and responsibilities. You do not want to give them any reason to not contact you. And unfortunately, at some points in time with certain people, it's numbers. So we're not going to give them any numbers. 10 is the magic number. All right, so here's an example with bullet points. And these came from resumes I've received. So if your bullet points right now say something like, so instead of, I made sure my work area was clean. Well, that's terrific. But if I'm HR, I really don't know what that means. Did you take a Clorox wipe at the end of the day to your phone and that's what you mean? I don't know. That's okay, but does that really mean much to me as an employer wanting to hire somebody who has many more cleaning responsibilities? So give it some flavor. So how about something like maintain a clean, organized, and professional work area at the end of every shift to ensure safety and health standards were met. So you have the verb maintained, what you did, a clean, organized, and professional work area. How often did you do it? What's the frequency? At the end of every shift. Well, boy, oh boy, is that good news that you wrote that down, because you know what, as HR, at the end of every shift that you just applied to, you gotta clean. So I'm very glad you wrote that, because now that says to me, I can see you in that past role, because that applies to the current role. So good job for doing that. Here's another example of enhancing your bullet points. Instead of responsible for customer service and selling items. So I know I told you up front that my pet peeve is putting the P in the colon for a phone number and the E in the colon for the email. My major pet peeve is resumes that state responsible for. The reason you don't write responsible for is this is your resume, and every single thing on here that you're listing, especially in the employment section, you are responsible for. You wrote it. You did it. You're saying these were your jobs and these were your duties. I know you're responsible for them. So let's just get right down to it and start with that action verb. So instead of responsible for customer service and selling items, I don't know what that means. I don't know what customer service means to you, because that could be different from me, to you, to Sally, to Frank. I don't know. And I don't know what selling items means. What items? And what does it mean you sold items or selling items? How many did you sell? What did you sell? I don't know what this is. So flavor it, right? Assisted, so how about assisted over 20 customers each day, resulting in meeting daily sales goal of $250. So you have the verb in there and it's correct. Assisted, excellent. Action verb. Over 20 customers, you got a number. Each day, you got the frequency, resulting in meeting daily sales goals of $250. You got a second number in there. That's terrific. So let's say you're applying for some sort of a retail or sales position and you put the how about bullet in there. And I'm HR and I know that our daily sales goals are $200 and we only assist like maybe 10 a day. Boy, oh boy, are you looking good now, because you chose to spend some time and flavor the resume. You chose some time to highlight yourself. You chose some time to sell your strength and enhance your brand. Remember, just like Pepsi Cola, just like Kellogg's, just like Adidas, you are a brand. You are selling you, and you are your own expert. You know your background. You know all the terrific and wonderful things you did. So you gotta show it. And unlike an in-person, I just met you on the street introduction, you can't do that verbally and in person. You gotta get it on paper. That's the best way to do it. It's the only way to do it. Okay, so education section. You got your contact info centered. You got your professional summary written, and again, as a reminder, you're only going up to 10 years, even if you have over that. You got your skills section written. You got those hard skills, probably a couple soft skills as well. I know my resume has a couple soft skills also. You're going into your work history section. Just your last 10 years? About 3, 4, maybe 5 bullets for each of the jobs that you listed. Now you're doing education. So what do you need for this section? Similarly to the work history section, there's a few things that are required. You need the name of the full name of the school, the city and state it's located, and the exact name of the degree or the certificate as it's written. So let's say you've earned a Bachelor of Arts somewhere. Please don't write BA or Bachelor apostrophe S degree. Write exactly what it says, Bachelor of Arts in Sociology, whatever it is. So those things, when it comes to the year, I've seen it on the vast majority of resumes. You do not need the year you began. It does not matter. The year you completed is all that you need, okay? So here's where the number 10 comes into play again. This is the third portion of the resume where the number 10 comes into play. If you completed your education over 10 years ago, you are not including that date. You're going to include everything else, the name of the school, the city and state, the exact name of the degree. You're just going to go ahead and delete the date. Mine's been deleted for a little bit now. It goes back to we don't want anybody doing math. The next bullet, there's no need to list the way it's written. There's no need to list high school or GED if you completed a program above that. So you don't need the lower level education if you completed the higher level. So if you completed a Bachelor of Arts, but you also previously earned an Associates of Arts, you don't need the Associate of Arts. It's a given that you secured the credits necessary for an associate's by you stating that you have that Bachelor of Arts degree. So something I'll get as well, Phil, I got to tell you what, when I got that associate's, I was newly married, I had children, I was working full time while going to school. I worked hard to get that associate's, maybe equally as hard as that bachelor's degree, and I'm proud of that. And I say, as you should be. You can keep it in. And if you want that in, keep it in. My position is you just simply don't need it. So if you need some space and you need a line or two, that's where you could delete to get a couple more lines in, because maybe you want another bullet point for one of your jobs. But this is a personal preference. The last bullet on here, like the work history section, your most recent education first. So if you have 2 listed, let's say you have an AA listed from Triton, and that was earned in 2018, and you want to keep that high school in there because you're proud of it, and that was in 16, you're putting the most recent first. So this is how it could look. And the way this was written was as if the person was presently in school. I realize the dates don't match up at this point. This was written a little bit ago, but you get the point, right? So you have an education section, ABC Truck Driving School, that's the name of the school, the full name. Chicago, Illinois is the city and state. So let's say you're presently in school. You're gonna write present or current, something to dictate to them you're actively involved in this school right now. Underneath that, what exactly are you earning? In this person's case, CDLA certification. So if you're presently in school or currently in school, the other thing you have to add is that anticipated graduation date or expected completion, however it is that you want to phrase it. You got to include that as well. So in this person's case, 07-2020, which I understand we're past, but that's how you would do it. And that's most recent. Underneath that, XYZ Automotive Institute, the full name, followed by the city and state, Melrose Park, Illinois. One date, that's the date completed, 06-2017, and exactly what was earned, Automotive Technology Diploma. Notice it doesn't state Auto Tech Diploma or automotive tech diploma. It's the full name as written, okay? One thing I would say, and this is something that you can tinker with and see how your responses go. If you want to send this to a buddy, a friend, a relative, whatever, if you're working with a career coach, you can always move the education section around in your resume. So what do I mean by that? If you feel your education carries weight or value, you can bring that up. So let's say you just recently graduated whatever educational institution it is that you graduated. Let's say it's Triton with an AA because we use that. You'd want to go, you could go contact information, professional summary, education. You just finished with that AA, and that applies directly to the job for which you're applying. So when that HR or the recruiter is scanning through resumes, they're first going to notice who you are and where to find you, what you're offering with the professional summary, then straight to your education. Well, boy, oh boy, we stated in the job ad what was required was a high school diploma. This person's stating right up front they have their AA. Interesting. Let me keep reading. Again, that's a personal choice. It's a personal preference. There's no right or wrong to that. It's how do you like it? How do you want to present yourself? How do you want to sell yourself? If you feel like your education is in the rearview mirror, maybe you did earn a bachelor's in 1996 and you're not going to have the date on there anymore, maybe it is best to keep it down at the bottom of the resume. But that's up to you to play with and see how things go. All right, the professional references. We used to put on our resume at the very bottom something along the lines of references available upon request. We are not doing that anymore. We're taking that off, so if you have it, delete it, strike it, it's not there anymore. What we're doing is creating a separate Word document with your professional references, okay? So you open up Word, brand new document, save as, Phil Holmes professional references. Of course, that's not your name, so put your name in there. And you want to have at least 3, okay? So the suggestion is to find former supervisors, then managers, maybe coworkers. If you have to dip down a bit and do customers or vendors, do it. If you are recently in school or just out of school, you can find professors or teachers. If you're involved in a sport or some sort of, I don't know, community-based club that was through the school, list the sponsor or the person in charge of that. But try to effort those work references first, then come down the line. Suggestion, list your strongest reference first. Well, why would I say that? What's the difference, Phil? As long as all 3 are on there, you said 3. Well, here's the difference. If I'm HR and I have a ton of resumes and applications to get through, and I need to start verifying that you're a terrific and wonderful human being, as I have to do for 30 other people, whew, am I really going to have time to go through all 3? Perhaps, but perhaps not. And if I don't have time to do that, am I really going to start with your 3rd reference? Most likely not. Most likely I'm going to start with your 1st reference. So list your strongest reference first. So you need just the standard information. I'll throw it up on the screen in a bit. Their name, their title, their company, and then their contact information. Here's again my suggestion. Contact those references before you create and put them on the list. A couple of reasons. One, it's just polite. Hey Joe, I'm looking for a job. I'd like to list you as a reference. Are you good with that? Of course I am. That's how I imagine the conversation goes. So another reason is, aside from being polite, now you know, and you can verify that Joe still is at that company, Joe still has that title, and Joe's phone and email still function. The last thing I want to do is give 3 references and HR calls up to check up on you and see that you are an amazing person. And they say, Joe hasn't worked here in 2 years. I'm sorry. That doesn't look terrific, right? So a couple reasons. Be polite and also make sure their contact information is right. Here's a third reason, and this is me. This is kind of mine. I don't know how you are with your phone. This is how I am with mine. If a number comes through and I don't know it, I'm not answering it. I'm gonna let it go to voicemail. Now, let's say my friend Joe called me. Hey, Phil, I'm looking for a job. Can I list you as a reference? Yes, you can, Joe, because we're friends. Here's my current phone. Here's my best email. Best of luck. Tell me how else I can help. A couple days later go by, I get a phone call from a number I don't recognize. I'm more likely to pick that number up because perhaps it's one of those companies calling to ask what a wonderful and terrific human being Joe is, so I can help that person out. So 3 different reasons to do that. So here's how that page can look. Again, like I mentioned, just professional references at the top. You're going to get their name, their title, where they work, phone, email, very basic information. Okay, so this is super important. You have to proofread your resume. You have to ask somebody else to proofread it. It's not good enough that you do it. Here's the reason. You may be a very good writer, reader, proofreader, editor. I've worked with these folks, and that could be very true. But when you're in the eye of the storm, when it's you, it's sometimes very difficult to understand if that comma should be there or should not be there. Did I miss a period? Does it even make any sort of sense with what I wrote to somebody else? Because to me, it might make perfect sense. But if I have a third party read it, they may go, I don't really know what you mean by that. What does that mean? So now you can revamp it and revise it if you need to. But have someone else proofread it. And I don't know how you work, but if you have the ability to print out your resume and have it on paper and read through it line by line, somehow, for some reason for me, documents read differently when they're printed out and there's a hard copy. And oftentimes that's how I check or I get my mistakes. That's how I check myself before I send it to somebody else to proofread, is I do a hard copy. Not everybody has that ability. I understand that. If you do, I suggest that you do that because sometimes you can catch that. So I also threw in here consistency as part of proofreading. Whatever you do for one, you do for all. So if you're doing month/year for your job, you have to do it for all jobs. You can't suddenly switch. Okay, so if you're doing 02 2018-01 2020, 2 digits/4 digits, that's how you do it for every single one, including education. It's very important. Consistency is key. Also with consistency, if you bold your job title for one job, you have to bold just your job title for all jobs. I can't tell you how many resumes come through, and I'm looking at that work history section, and guess what's bolded? The company, the address, the title, the dates. If everything is bolded, what stands out? Nothing stands out, right? So you got to pick one. And the suggestion is you either bold your job title or you bold the company for whom you worked. One or the other. But whichever one you choose, do it for all. A question came through. I'll get to that. I'm almost through the slides. I'll get to that once I get through these slides. All right, so formatting and layout, I get this quite a bit. Just open up Word and start typing, okay? Just use 1-inch margins. There's no reason to customize. If you start playing with those margins and think you're gonna be sneaky, and you can now squeeze everything into one page, you're not fooling anybody. HR and recruiters, they look at resumes all day, every day. That's their job. So if you're trying to squeeze it in, that doesn't look good. Also, it's probably gonna be really hard to read. And again, the whole point is to make this easy to read for HR. This is gonna be single space throughout. Don't double space it, don't line and a half space it. Use the color black. I received a resume over the winter time. It was all orange. Please don't do that. Your font size, I get this question a lot. It's either size 11 or it's size 12. It will not be smaller than 11. It will not be larger than 12. If it's smaller than 11, it's very difficult to read. Very difficult. And you're trying to squeeze everything into the pages. Please don't do that. It makes it difficult. And you're not going to go higher than 12. Why aren't you going to go higher than 12? Because now if you're at 16, it'd be pretty clear to me as HR, you don't have that much to say. And so you're trying to fill your pages by increasing the font size. You're not fooling anybody on the other end. They know what you're doing. The caveat to this, you can increase the font size with your contact information. So if you're using 12 size and let's say Times New Roman throughout, you can go to your contact information and click it up to 14 perhaps, right? Something like that's what stands out a bit. Which font size? Find one and use it throughout. Again, I can't tell you the number of resumes I've seen that I've worked with where the different section headings are, say, Tahoma for professional summary, work experience, education skills. Then what's inside is Calibri, but the contact information is Georgia. Believe it or not, it's actually a strain on the eyes to have all those different font styles. So find one you like and have it throughout, okay? Big question, the length. Phil, how long can my resume be? I can't tell you how many customers have come to me and said, without really citing a source, I've been told it can only be 1 page long. That is false. That is not accurate. The majority of resumes are 2 pages. The majority. The real answer is it can be up to 2 as long as you're telling your story. So if you only need 1 page, and that's terrific, it's 1 page. If you need 2 pages, terrific. Include the 2 pages. Remember, you're not writing your autobiography, right? You're giving your highlights. You're giving the best of the best. You're giving them your greatest hits. This should not be more than 2 pages. If it's more than 2 pages, you need to scale it back. So you may need to remove some bullet points or make your bullet points shorter. But HR or recruiters don't have all the time in the world to spend with you and your resume. So you're going to keep it at 1 full page, or you're going to get it as close to 2 full pages as possible. If you have 1.5, you can use that. I would prefer you be closer to 1 3/4. But if you have 1 full page and like 5 lines on page 2, well, now you got to figure something out. Now you either have to condense and bring that back to 1 full page because you only have 5 lines. That'd look pretty weird. Or now you have to flesh out that second page and get to like a 1/2 page or 3/4 of a page. 3 pages are really, those are folks looking to be a professor at Northwestern. Those are folks looking to be the head of gastroenterology at Loyola. But for our purposes, 1 or 2 pages. Okay, so I've gone through a lot of, well, everything is what you need to include. I mean, they're really more than suggestions. They're what HR and recruiters and the employer are expecting to see. They really are expectations. Here's what not to do. And this is all for the purpose of that resume getting through that company's ATS, the applicant tracking system. I get most of my resumes are written in a template, which is why I just said in the page or 2 previous, open up Word and start typing. If you're gonna write your resume in a template, the odds are stacked against you that it's going to get through the ATS. So just open up Word. Now, if you found a template and you want to use it, that's great to reference, but you have to write it just in Word. You're not going to insert any tables. So we wrote about the skills section, right? Include about 9 different skills, hopefully mostly hard, a few soft skills. So some people I have gotten in resumes, they've dropped in a table. Well, that looks really good, Phil. It's easy to read. It's right there. They're in their own little house, their own little rectangle house. If you drop in a table, you're increasing your odds that what's in the table is not seen on the other side, or that it's skewed or jumbled, or only a couple things are there. So you don't need a table. All you have to do is tab across and create your own table using the tab key. Don't include any photos. That's unnecessary. No borders. Please don't use italics. Again, you want to get through the ATS. That's one of those items that may cause issues, and don't underline anything. All you're going to do is open up Word. You're going to tab. You're going to bold. You're going to use bullet points. That's it. The formatting or the layout of the resume isn't that fancy. What matters is what you write. What matters is how you sell yourself. That's what matters. The words that you're using, the numbers you insert, the percentages you insert. How do you present yourself with a professional summary, right? That's what matters most. Okay, well, that was my presentation. I know I had at least one Q&A come through. One said, if you're furloughed from your current job, under job description, should you put action words in present or past tense? That's a good question. I've actually not run across that. So furloughed means you're not exactly not working there anymore, but you're not working there for now. If I were you, I would use present. I would use present because no one has told you for a fact you're not coming back. That hasn't happened yet. That would be you're being let go or you were fired. Furloughed is a pause. So you're still presently there until you're told that you're not. That'd be my suggestion. You're welcome. So let's see. Is it okay to use executive summary versus professional? Absolutely, it's whatever you want. Executive summary, professional summary, however it is you want to phrase it, however it is you want to flavor it, right? And again, you can go back to my best friend Google and see some resume samples and see what fits you. So second question, if I worked at a company for over 10 years, how or why would we eliminate the additional years of experience, and also LinkedIn profile indicates all previous years of experience? Well, LinkedIn is different. LinkedIn is just if the company happens to look at your profile. There's no guarantee the company's looking at your LinkedIn. They might not. The reason is for 10 years is you want to keep it relevant. So you've been there over 10 years. So here's a caveat. If you're there over 10 years, but you have other experience that is relevant to the job for which you're applying, you can create a separate section heading called something like relevant experience or additional experience. You can have something like that. And that's where you would throw in that other experience. You keep it shorter. Again, you want to keep within the 1 to 2 pages. But that is clear to the HR, to the recruiter, that this is beyond the 10 that they're expecting, but you're still giving yourself the credit for what was done. On the ATS tracking, they ask year graduated, if it's prior to 10 years ago, and do we list? I'm not sure what that means. So what I'm suggesting for the education section is if you completed your education over 10 years ago, remove the date. If what this question is asking is an application and there's a red asterisk and you can't get by without listing that date, again, like LinkedIn, that's a separate entity from the resume. You'd have to list it. Resume for changing industry. Do we list the past responsibilities? List the responsibilities that most likely line up or are relevant to the job for which you're applying. Do your best to, what's the word? Transition, to find that overlap, to show how those past responsibilities or skills match up. In regards to education, should I put self-classes certificates I take via certain apps? So yeah, you can have a separate section. Maybe after education, you want to have some sort of a certifications heading, right? So you can have certifications, list what those certifications are. But again, remember, you're listing what's relevant to the job. There's no reason to put a certification for, I don't know, IT if you're going for truck driving, probably. So make sure everything is relevant. Do I name classes that I took, even though I didn't finish my degree, if it relates to my job? Excellent question. Thank you for asking that. The education section, you're only listing that which you completed. If you took a couple classes at Triton or Community College, ABC, or even U of I, if you didn't complete the education, you are not listing it. So if you took classes that are relevant to the job you're going for, I mean, that's something you could maybe bring up in your phone screen or your Zoom interview or the in-person. I mean, did you finish those classes 12 years ago? I don't know, that's relevant. Did you just recently take them? Then that could make sense. But the education section on the resume is just for that which you wholly completed. Will the presentation be available after today? I've been told it's being recorded, so to me that sounds like a yes. Is it recommended or is it discouraged to include your LinkedIn profile on your resume? Excellent question. Thank you for asking that. I would recommend you put your LinkedIn URL if your LinkedIn is ready to be viewed. So if you have a LinkedIn profile and you've only gone through a couple of the steps to set it up, that's not ready to be viewed. You don't have any skills listed on there. Maybe you don't have a recommendation listed. You don't even really have, maybe you have your jobs listed on LinkedIn, but you didn't flavor it in with anything. You didn't complete it with responsibilities. And maybe you throw in a quick, I work in healthcare as your header or title. That's not ready. Okay, that's not ready. When it's ready, then put the LinkedIn URL on your resume. Absolutely. Something I do, and I don't even know if it really matters that much, but something I do, let's say I apply to ABC company, I've done all my due diligence, I've looked at the qualifications, I really like the way it sounds, I've done my application, I've done my resume, I put in all those keywords. What I'll do is then go to LinkedIn and I'll follow that company. I don't know that that means anything, but the way I look at it is it can't hurt. I just don't think it'll hurt. If you have 2 pages on your resume, should it be separate pages or is it okay to be front and back? So here's the thing, when you submit your resume, it's going electronically through outer space and is then going to land in the computer of the company you want to work for, right? So that's number 1. Number 2, let's say you get that in-person interview, right? The suggestion for the interview is you bring a couple of copies of your resume with you. Now, if I'm HR and you hand me a resume where it's double-sided and I'm sitting there flip-flopping back front, that's more difficult for me to read than if it's on 2 pages. I can spread the 2 pages out, look at it at the same time. So my suggestion is not to have it double-sided. That's what I would say. You're welcome and you're welcome. Where will the presentation be available and will the PowerPoint document be included? My answer is, I don't know, and probably that's up to people that are running this, and I don't know. I came in to present this, this workshop. I'm not sure. I was told it's going to be recorded. My guess is yes, it'll be made available. Anything else? Any other questions on the resume? I think one more came in. Can we contact you? So my information is here. So what I could do is I can take a look at your resume, right? And I could give you a little bit of feedback. But please keep in mind, I work for employment and employer services. I work at an American Job Center. So I have a caseload of customers that I'm presently and currently working with that have been deemed what's called eligible to work with me. So I can give a cursory look and I can give you some minor feedback, but as far as working one-on-one with each other, you'd have to contact, in fact, let's see, is it, right. So at the bottom of the screen is the website for ENES, EESFORJOBS.com. Okay, so if you go there and you find the calendar section, you are going to find a ton of different webinars available to you. And some of those are going to be job readiness webinars, such as this one, right? Resume, interviewing skills, job search strategies. You'll find financial webinars, managing your credit, managing student debt. There's wellness webinars. Those are all for you, all for the taking. Register, sign up, attend them, please. You'll also find an orientation throughout. So if you have an interest in working with a career coach from employment and employer services, what you would really need to do is go to eesforjobs.com, find the calendar section, sign up for an orientation, and start the process. Find out if you are eligible for the WIOA, WIOA program. If you are, terrific. You'll be assigned a career coach. Could be me, could not be me. But that'd be my suggestion. So outside of attending an orientation, seeing if you apply, there's also all those other workshops and webinars via Zoom that are right at your fingertips. And really, I got to tell you what, they are really good. And everybody knows the score in this day and age with COVID being so prevalent. Anything you can do to put yourself in a better position to get a job would be good news.